I'm always surprised by how few people have actually tried collard greens. The recipe is pretty simple, and we'll be displaying this again at the end of the video. Shown in the picture is the collard green recipe that I'll be showing you today. And this is made with smoked ham shanks. The collards have to cook with that for anywhere in a range from about an hour to 2.5 hours. And we'll discuss further this full process. It's a very, very flavorful dish, very filling, and very, very healthy. The collards that we'll be working with for this recipe were grown in my garden. The first thing that we'll need to do with these is get them very, very clean and ready for cooking. So I filled my sink with hot tap water to clean the leaves. So what the hot tap water will do is it helps to relieve the sediment and debris, dirt, and any insects which may have adhered and taken a trip with the leaves into your home. We don't want those to become a part of our meal, so the hot tap water ensures that those are all completely released and that the leaves are completely clean. So we agitate the leaves in the hot water to help remove any sediment. Then we grab each leaf individually, shake it around in the water, inspect to make sure there's nothing attached, and then we stage it for drying prior to the second wash. As you can see, I have separated out my large leaves and my small leaves. I do this purposely because the larger leaves, I'll often trim the stems out. They can be eaten, but I typically do remove any stems that are 3/8 of an inch or larger diameter. So here we go on the final portion of this batch of the leaves that need cleaned for the first time. As you can see in this particular batch, it looks like there's been a little bit more bug activity. This is a group that I had not been able to attend to toward the end of season, and we're going to find a few insects along the way. So let's get these cleaned and we'll see what we find and prepare for second cleaning and move into the recipe. So again, we're using hot tap water. We're pushing all the leaves into the hot water to make sure that they're submerged. And then we will start agitating them and getting them completely clean. So shuffling them around, giving them some agitation, grabbing each individual leaf, shaking it underneath the water to help remove any sediment or other things that might be attached. We inspect the leaf and then move it to the drying area. Small leaves can be a little bit harder to work with. They often fold over and you have to open them up with your fingers before you slosh them around the water to make sure that they do come clean completely. If you don't, you're going to end up with dirt or other sediment in your food. So we'll finish cleaning these leaves in the hot water, and then we will empty the sink, refill with cool water, give them a second wash. We shouldn't have to worry about any sediment at that point, so we should be able to use the same water for the full batch. I always check my sink to see how much sediment or bugs have washed off my leaves. As you can see, we had one worm there, and oh look, there's a spider. Time to clean the sink and start the second wash, but we're going to move on to preparing the smoked ham shank. So I always aim for a 2-pound ham shank. Make sure it's smoked, it gives that extra flavor. We're going to prepare that in a heavy bottom pot, filling the pot with water and or broth, just enough to cover the ham shank. We're going to bring the pot to a boil and then return to simmer. While this is happening, we'll add the other ingredients. One of the first things I add is kosher salt. I like to use Morton. We next add sugar. Refer to the recipe for the amount. Add some granulated garlic. My favorite is Tony's Original Creole Seasoning. I follow the recipe, but I always add a little extra to my bowl. Don't forget to add some black pepper. And oh, the taste of that paprika. You can't go wrong with some onion powder. Well, maybe I should add a little more. Worst sister in the Shire sauce. And her twin. Some cider vinegar to bring these greens to life. Just a touch more for flavor. Next we add rice vinegar, which helps to remove any bitterness that the leaves may have. Add the rice vinegar and let's start cooking. So we're going to put a lid on the pot, raise it to a boil, and then reduce to simmer, stirring every few minutes to make sure that the ingredients blend well. To prepare the greens, you want to have a good cutting board, a really sharp knife, and you just slide the knife right across and trim those leaves right down. Add as much of the stem as you choose. You can add all of the stem if you want. I tend to stay with the smaller stems. I don't go too thick. I want to make sure that it cooks uniformly. So I'll trim all this down. I'll stack the materials up and I'll chop them into 1.5 to 2-inch squares and prepare that for the pot. Now, I'd like to mention that while I'm doing this, I do inspect the leaves, every single one of them, to make sure that they are fully cleaned. I've already washed them twice. I've inspected them completely every time, but I still continue to do the inspection during the trimming. I have caught things before that were not something I wanted to put into the pot and try to feed to my family. Because this is a very important step, I'm going to continue to show a little bit more of me trimming these leaves and stems and preparing the greens for the pot. The stems that are left over, I'll return for compost. So the greens are all ready to go. We got quite a few here. Turned out to be about 3.5 pounds. We're going to stir the pot around a little bit before we add the greens, and then we'll start stuffing greens and make sure that they are submerged completely within the liquid. If we have to, we can add some more broth. So we're going to start putting greens from the large pot into the small pot. Trust me, these are all going to fit. We're going to make them fit. They have to be fully submerged, so if necessary, we'll just add a little bit more broth or water. We'll use the spoon to continue pushing them down. You'll notice as you're working on these that they do start breaking down as they get heated, and you can fit every bit of that in the pot, no problem. Once again, we're going to return the pot to a boil and get the greens really cooking. And with the pot now boiling, we're going to return the heat down to simmer. We're going to remove the lid, press all the leaves back under the water. Some of these are going to float right up there. We're going to allow this to get down to simmer. We're going to mix it all up really nicely while we've got the pot open, and then we'll move on to the next phase. So once we've got this back down to a simmer, we're going to add the lid, leave it cracked open, periodically checking and stirring things around, also checking on the ham hock. Now we're getting close to the end of the cooking. It's at this point that I like to add onion. So I'll get an onion ready to go. 1 medium onion usually is good for the 3.5 pound batch. And then after this, we will start preparing the ham hock to be separated. Gonna add some onion. Oh, there we go. Nice job. I'm a magician on the side. We're gonna mix that in and let that simmer for about 5-10 minutes more. So now we're going to check the texture of the collards to see if they've cooked well enough. Looks like they have cooked well. We're going to turn that down to low, and we're going to check the ham shank to see if the meat is ready to fall off the bone there. If that is ready, we will start moving on to finalize this batch. Pull him on out of there. Yep, looks pretty good. So we're going to set the ham shank down. We're going to let him cool for about 10 minutes, and then we'll start working on it. And again, I said I'm going to turn this down to low. So the ham shank cooled a little bit. I have separated the meat from the bones, and I'm ready to add the meat to the collard greens. Gonna mix that right in, stir it all up. We are so close to having a nice, wonderful bowl of meaty collard greens. But before I can call this done, I need to take a sample and I'll spice it up in whatever way may be needed. So the batch is ready. I've got myself a bowl. I like mine flavored a little extra, a little bit of spice and a little bit of tang. So Tony's Creole seasoning is a spice that I like to add. You can try many other spices. I do recommend you give this one a shot. So your training is complete and you are now qualified to make a wonderful batch of collard greens for your next family event. Let me know if you like this recipe or if you made any changes of your own. And again, if you enjoyed this video, please like my page. I'm now going to sign out for my Midwest man cave. I've got some collard greens to eat.